8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
And it's game time. Ready Up's coming in. Connex5 here with Facial. We're going to cast this MLUT. I don't even know. Is this week 1 or week 2 or SaSSy or week 3?
Yeah, this is week 2.
Week 2 match is going to be 7th Degree, which is Fro's team, against SaSSy, which is Zeos' team. Actually, the first time we've seen Zeos' team play a match, because they had a week 1 bye. We saw them for the first time in a scrim the other night that we casted, going up against Team Big. Looked pretty good. I mean, I know, like I've said, I actually picked this team to make it to the finals as my prediction. I think they probably have on paper the best starting lineup. But you know, you don't play these matches on paper.
Ganja does pick up the first amp of the game, but he is taken down at the opponent 100 shield. So seeing that power up neutralized pretty much effectively immediately.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about this map. Due to the fact that you have such heavy traffic in mid, it both sort of amplifies, so to speak, the effect of the damage amp, but it also makes it really, really hard to get an uncontested amp. Every single amp that spawns is going to have someone around it to shoot at whoever grabs it.
Yeah, definitely. That wide open mid really lends itself to an advantage of a fragging team. That's for sure.
One thing that I think is going to be key on this map is what team has the best offensive coordination and communication to get these pickups. This is one of those maps where you're never going to count on a solo run. You're almost always going to have to relay 4 or 5 people getting pickups across mid and even back into your base in order to make an effective, successful flag run. So it'll be interesting to see which team is in sync the most on their offense.
Yeah, absolutely. You're looking at a map with 2 kegs, 2 100 shields, and just the size of the map is not that big, so an offense can totally be killed on one run, come back and drop back to play defense the next time around. So
we're actually seeing a lot of flag movement early on. I'm watching Nanum right now. He's actually playing keg defense on the blue team. So putting a lot of shock ball and a lot of shot combo spam up there. As it looks like Red has that amp. Yep, we're going to have Danny in here with the amp for Team SaSSy. Making a move towards shock. He's going to be able to clear that front door with a double kill, throwing combos all over mid, trying to predict where Blue's going to be coming out to hit his flag carrier. And Blue is on the other side with red flag. That's actually going to get returned. Both flags getting returned at the same time. So
Kofi was brought down by a beautiful flak ball right to his face.
Yeah, it looks like both teams just sort of ran into each other in mid, and when the dust settled, everybody lost. Or everybody won, whichever way you want to look at it. See, Danny grabbed him. Didn't take any damage, really, in that fight in mid, but now he's down to 55. Took a little goo damage there. He's actually going to make it out to mid. He's got Nanum all over him, though. Down to 35 health. This Link should take him down. There's no one there for the pickup. I think he was just sort of testing the defense there, trying to keep him on and see if he could get a lucky one out to mid.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be a really good strategy for that team today, or right now, at least in this map, is just grab, mass in grab.
One thing I find interesting, I'm seeing Nanum now playing some defense for Blue still, and it looks like he's grabbing their 100 armor. So they're leaving their 100 armor, at the very least, they're not keeping it for the offense. They're not holding it for offense. I don't know if that was a case of it being defense responsibility, or if they're just saying, hey, grab it if you see it anyway to keep it away from the other team. But
and Zyos actually just took the amp.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and watch him.
It looks like he might be pushing up on offense for this run.
It looks like he saw some incoming, and being a defender, he's going to err on the side of dropping back. As we see Danny disconnecting here. I'm not sure if we had an official ruling by Linoleum on what the idea is here for disconnects. I know there's been talk of instituting a timeout ability in this new UT Comp CTF, but it doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, it's definitely not there yet, and I mean, it looks like the Rose team may be trying to take advantage of the power play, but it doesn't matter anyway. Flags returned.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, the official wording is if you drop a guy, it's your responsibility to have someone waiting, in coach mode to come in. We do have a server admin in the server who can pause it, but I don't know what the official ruling is here.
And there we do see the pause.
Well, one way or another, we're getting a pause.
Well, I can say that this is going to be the most dramatic drama bomb we're going to see on Pro Unreal in a week or so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is. I don't think it's in the nature of Fro or his team to so much come back and say, "Oh my God, we should have been able to play 5-on-4." I mean, obviously, if they end up winning this match anyway, then they probably won't make a big stink about it anyway. But still, I mean, the fact of the matter is, sometimes teams have to play down, and sometimes there's not always an admin around deposit. So the question is going to be whether this is going to be something that's going to be allowed, if possible, or if there's going to be any kind of official ruling henceforth, kind of what's going to happen from now on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there has to be something like that because, that's the whole point of MLUT is there's going to be nights where you're not going to get your top 5 on, and here you see Ganja typing in chat that they don't have a 6th, when I think we all know that they do. They have Nemod and they have Mintek both on their roster. Mintek just joined IRC 20 minutes before their game, so I don't see the logic there, and I think that if they're going to, be basically sandbagging weeks to try to get their top 5 on, they should be penalized for that.
Yeah, I mean, people have been having issues trying to get teams teams in, but it's like at the same time there's always a free agent pool for the same reasons. We'd rather not see matches put off indefinitely trying to find who can play when, and maybe that's something that we may need to do going forward. Is maybe we'll adjust the system and maybe have like pre-scheduled matches, and it's up to the teams to field fly one way or another. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to potentially approach this, but certainly something like this, it's going to need an answer. Put it that way. We're going to need to have a solution to this problem. Hopefully by the sometime this coming week. I don't know if Linoleum is around right now, but I mean he's sort of the head admin, but he'll take all the input he can. But ultimately it's going to be his decision. So I'll try to talk to him later on and see if he has any ideas for how it's going to go.
Yeah, and in no way is this fair to the enemy team. Obviously they were able to field whatever they have available right now. They put 5 together, they put them in a roster, and nor is it fair to the guys on your team who aren't necessarily your top 5 players. I mean, you field who shows up. That's that's the nature of MLUT.
Well, and I think the biggest issue they're going to have with this is consistency. Like I say, you're not always going to have a server admin around deposit, and so if one team has to play a man down because there was no one around deposit, then rightly so, they should argue that every team should have to if the same situation occurs. It's basically it should be an all or nothing thing for the sake of consistency, and I think that's the issue we're going to have. It looks like PB is going to unpause it. Danny's back in here, so we're going to continue this map even numbers. And again, I don't foresee Fro's team making a big stink about this, but it's certainly, again, for the sake of consistency, something that we're going to need an official solution to.
Absolutely,
soon.
We're having a big fight over Amp right now in the mid, as it was maybe just came up and taken.
Well, the blue team seems to think it hasn't. I mean, everybody, there it goes, and GS3K with a clean run with Amp now. He's out with it because everybody died before he walked up there, so he actually had 100 armor too. So. And rightly so, he jumps right into the slime pit, or gets knocked in there, and it all goes away. Both power-ups neutralized there.
I think we saw like 5 or 6 deaths over the fight for that amp right there. That's fun.
Yeah, I'm watching B-Banks now. He's actually looking pretty good. For Blue's other defense here. It looks like they're doing an interesting split. They're going like a left-right split. So B-Banks is covering their sort of flak entrance over there, that little doorway, and he's trans-dropping back when need be. Oftentimes in this map you'll see more of a front-back split, but I guess if the other team isn't being super aggressive, you can get away with pushing both people up to the front of your base and then just being ready to fall back if need be.
And that's definitely one thing that I'm seeing from the red team, as I'm kind of just free camming out in the middle, watching Amp and watching players kind of trans through sub and things like that. Is Zios is pushing to that front door every opportunity he gets, just leaving that one flag defender right on that stick.
Yeah, I'm going to compare. I'm looking at Chowie. He's actually playing the same position as B-Banks. Except I think he's playing more of the forward role. So you see him going back. He's trans dropping, and you see him pushing up to his sort of bunker entrance. I guess you said that flak entrance. But he's also going over
right now with the amp.
All right, let me go view that. As you see him, he was actually shooting Chowie. Not able to get that keg away from him, but he is going to distract him long enough for his team to get a grab. A double kill by Zeos takes them both out at once, but both flags are still moving here as Fro is in the drink. and that's going to be an easy return. Once you fall into the water on this map, it's pretty much a death sentence.
Yeah, there's not too many people who can pull off a Leonardo DiCaprio a la Titanic.
Oh, we see a nice flag there by B-Banks. And, you know, it's one of those maps where, due to all the choke points and the complexity, you know, there's not really an ability to do a speed run on this map. There's a couple jumps you can do to kind of get you through little choke points quicker, but at no point in this map, as opposed to, you know, a lot of the long linear maps like, say, a Grindel Keep, at no point when you're running the flag can you really say, hey, I'm home free because I can outrun the defense to my flag. I think that's
Absolutely.
a key to a map like this. And so this is definitely going to be one of those map picks that we see against teams that have really fast flag runners, because it forces you. And Blimpo, again, like, not surprising to me that he's going to be all over that amp. Basically, they're probably just going to play him. You see Blimpo with a mega kill on that amp, and of course, right as I switch to him, he dies. But yeah, controlling that amp could be key. With a map with so many choke points, just like we were saying, that amp can make it so easy to clear out those choke points. And sometimes all you need is a 5-second window of opportunity in your front door or the enemy front door, and that's the difference between a cap and not a cap.
Fro is actually outside past the submarine on his side of the base with a nice pickup by Blimpo. Corky with another nice pickup.
And that's what we saw. You see, blue team there, they were maybe 2 seconds away from being able to get that one in the door, and then they would have been in good shape for a cap. Red able to get that last second return before they're able to push in past that big choke point. But those pickups, again, coming into play already.
Yep, and like we were just discussing, you know, that was a nice visual representation of what those choke points can do. Those tight corridors, both leaving and entering a base, really speak well to players who you know, use a lot of flak and rockets, because that splash damage can really come back.
Yeah, and one thing too that I'll mention is a little bit different about this map is, since the flag routes are effectively predetermined, there's a little element of, I guess you'd say, unpredictability both for your team and the enemy team that's taken out from the flag runners, and that both helps cover, and it you know, it hurts flag runners in a way, because there's no way you're going to juke the defense on this map.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, you see, you know, nobody on this, at least this version of the map, this is not the version with the second exit or entrance just past the I guess, what is it, the shock rifle, but or the
flag
lightning
cannon side, I think, had
yeah. But yeah, I mean, you know, nobody goes window anymore. Everybody goes right out that front door, and you know, they push up people to mid, and that's just how they play.
Yeah, it's almost like a close quarters version of Maul in a way, as far as the layout and as far as how you really just have to run your offense. You've got basically two sides of mid. You're either going to go close side sub or far side sub, and you're going to run head on into the other team one way or another. You just have to win those little TDM battles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all about, you know, coordinating your run and having your defense push up to that submarine at the right time when you can get that flag out. So I think we're going to be seeing Amp come up here near the near future. So I would look to see another fight there with Blimpo and probably Zyos and Ganja.
Yeah, Blimpo's actually running the flag, getting to red front door, goes down though. So it'll be interesting to see if red gets an unopposed Amp right here, and they do. So Danny able to get an Amp all by himself because Blimpo was trying to run that flag. So, you know, sometimes people criticize players for being too mid-oriented, but that's just shows the nuances required to play the position well, because it's more about being in the right place at the right time than necessarily getting more kills, less kills, or what have you.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we're just over halfway into this map. Obviously, the game's still knotted at zeros. This isn't a, you know, quote unquote sexy offensive map like we're going to see some other teams pick, but it's definitely an exciting map for, you know, watching flag running. And
I'll tell you what, though, we just saw the Amp come into play right there as Danny had a killing spree, absolutely annihilating everything he saw, leaving enemy base, and it didn't result in a, I guess what you might call a sustained run. They didn't get back into their own base, but it gave them a really solid push just by one person having that Amp. And you know, if you can make a solid Amp move on this map, that can give you a chance every time. And so, you know, whoever gets more of these sustained Amp runs is probably going to get more sustained flag runs.
Yeah, you know, definitely, and you know, just doing a quick look at the scoreboard. I mean, we're a very even match right now. It's definitely a slobber knocker.
Yeah, and actually, you know, that brings up a point I mentioned earlier. I kind of compared how you run this map to say a Maul, in that you pretty much just have to group up with your flag carrier and fight your way across. There's not much finesse required. But at the same time, the fact that there's so many power-ups actually helps benefit a team that may not have the fragging ability of their opponent, because it helps neutralize things. If you can control those power-ups, particularly controlling enemy power-ups like the keg and the 100 armor, you can really make up for a lot as far as lower, fragging ability one-on-one.
Yeah, definitely. And, Danny, as we see again with another nice amp grab, he's actually able to translocate up to the top of that submarine and steal it right away from the clutches of two enemy blue opponents, but he's actually taken down in the base, but he caused quite a bit of havoc first.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about this map is the fact that while it seems ultra straightforward, given that there's one natural flag route and there's basically one entrance and one exit to bases, it actually lends itself, due to that simplicity, to a few different sort of strategies and I guess what you might call formations. You can actually run, we've already talked about how these two teams are playing their defenses slightly differently, but we've even seen teams be super aggressive or super defensive. And I know that in Notorious we used to run 2 offense, 2 mid, and only 1 dedicated base defender, and that simplicity is what allows the ability to do different things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen a lot of, a 1-2-2, if you will, where 1 offense and 2 mid, 2 defenders. And Danny actually grabs his 3rd amp in a row.
Orange now pistoning out to mid. He had a ton of health and armor, and the entire blue team is in mid waiting for him. He's trying to be patient, waiting for his cover to come up. Red not able to get there in time. And again, that's kind of what we see here, is once you get out to mid with that flag, it just becomes basically a big team deathmatch situation. And blue was in position at that time. You saw them lined up all across the sub. You saw them all spread out, so they all kept tabs on him and knew exactly where he was going. That's good disciplined play right there. Sometimes all it takes is one or two of your team to overcommit one direction, and then your flag carrier can sneak on by. But they did a good job bottling him up there.
Yeah, definitely. Each team obviously has a dedicated player to be timing these power ups, and it speaks volumes that these guys know when these power ups are coming up. They're just playing better as out fragging each other in the mid for those.
Danny now just picked up blue 100 armor, so he's still got a little bit of armor left. I don't know if that's going to play a role in this run, but if nothing else, the timing of it could be huge, because this is one of those maps, we're already far enough into this map, as we've only got 6 minutes left, where a lot of the power-up time is going to start breaking down. Teams are going to start losing track of them and relying on their teammates to hear or pick them up in order to keep control.
Definitely. We're going to see an amp fight here real quick, as amp should spawn here in the next 5 seconds.
Yep, GS3K taking down Blimpo. Looks like he leaves it for his teammates, and Danny's going to get another amp. It's going to be his 4th of the match, and I think 4th in a row, no?
Yep, absolutely 4th in a row.
So it looks like they've effectively, at least temporarily, assigned Danny to effectively neutralize Blimpo. That is to say, just go in there and try to knock him off that amp to avoid that specific situation where Blimpo's able to get that amp and turn it against him.
Yeah, definitely. It looked like he was pretty comfortable, sitting back in a mid roll to maybe kind of either take pot shots on the offense as they were, go or maybe just be on guard for when that flag was able to make it out.
One thing we are seeing is it looks like the offenses have slowed down quite a bit. I don't know if that's due to the defenses just settling in, or if teams are playing more conservatively after all the flag runs we saw early in the match.
Yeah, I have to think it's a good mixture of both. After a certain amount of time on a map, a defense finally is able to settle in, whether it be a little offensive help on a fallback or something of that nature. But it definitely appears that both defensive players, for each team are in a comfortable state right now.
And there we see blue flag room being completely empty, and that's just kind of part of what we said they're doing. They're doing a left-right split over the defensive positions, which means that you can push both defenders up and have a translocator dropping back.
And Danny picks up his 5th amp in a row. I don't even think he was contested on that one, so I'm not even sure if the blue team will know what the actual time on that one is on the next one.
So Danny now with potentially timing on the amp and 100 armor taken away from blue team, although Nanum does take him down. And in a tight map like this, sometimes that can be the difference. The difference maker in the game is a team that gets a couple more amp runs, a couple more 100 armors, and all of a sudden you've got to do 2 to 3 times the damage to take them down. And that flag runner can really push through those choke points whenever they have all that health and armor stacked up.
Yeah, and in previous runs, we've seen both teams able to make some pretty last-second translocator flag pickups. So, that amp, I think, is probably going to be the deciding factor on this map eventually.
What will be interesting to see, and this is getting back to a lot of this really in-depth teamwork, chemistry, and capture the flag fundamentals, is if someone gets into a position in mid where they have to decide between using that amp to try to cover or pulling out their trans and picking up the flag. Because that's one interesting situation that cover players have to deal with that I think is a little bit sort of overshadowed at times because it's not like a big dramatic play. But if you have amp in mid, you know, you can potentially have a huge damage output. But if you're the closest one to that flag and it drops on the ground, you effectively have to neutralize that amp yourself by pulling out that trans and then getting that shield gun up.
Absolutely. Ganja is actually able to take this next amp, effectively taking or breaking the spree that Danny had, and that amp actually sat up for 8 seconds before anybody took it. So I don't know if that was just bad timing on both teams' part, or if both teams have effectively just kind of forgotten about it.
Well, Danny was actually hiding with the flag at that point, so I'm sure he let his teammates know it was coming up. I would bet that he still has timing on that, or at least you know, they grabbed it, so they should certainly still have timing on it. I bet he knew when it was coming up. He was actually dancing back and forth in the enemy flag room. You know, that may be a strategy here. Apparently what happened there was we saw the blue defenders lose track of him and immediately commit to the front of their base to cutting him off in mid. And so what he did was he was able to run all the way around, as we see Nanum having trouble picking up that keg. We know that can be kind of problematic on this map for whatever reason. I don't know the technical specifications of it, but he's going to have that now as he is holding down the fort for the last couple minutes in base.
2 minutes remain.
Yeah, and I think you're right. You know, we've seen, you know, a lot less flags in these last, you know, maybe seven or 8 minutes of this map, and maybe that's just a matter of teams just trying to get comfortable to maybe try to push a defense out. And I think that's what we're going to see is one team's going to have to get aggressive, going to have to get risky, and take a chance to try to win this map.
If nothing else, one thing that you will see if teams are having, I mean, both teams' defenses are obviously having success, you can start giving that keg to your offense on the way out. Your defense should be timing that keg, and they can say, hey, you know, our keg's going to be up in 15 seconds, whoever's there, come grab it. And then all of a sudden you're doubling the health of one of your attackers periodically, and that can be a huge boon too, especially if they're combining that with 100 armors and or stealing some of the enemy power-ups.
The amp again goes to the red team. I'm not sure which one took it. Both Zyos and Danny were up there when that amp was up. Zyos does not look like he had it, so maybe Danny was able to get it again.
Corky now looking okay as far as getting to the front of red base. He's got some cover there. Not going to get a pickup though as red team converges all over it. And due to the simplicity of the runs in this map and the choke points, you do run into that in one of those situations that you run into in some of these maps where your cover has to decide whether to go in and out with you and basically escort you all the way, or do you stick your cover in a strategic location, i.e. like enemy shock or their front door, and how that affects your ability to get pickups.
Yeah, you know, definitely. And I think another factor that's going to get added to the complexity of this game here is in the next 20 seconds when this thing goes into overtime, the time starts counting in the opposite direction, and so that becomes another hurdle for these teams to try to, you know, memorize power-up pickups.
See a fight over amp here. It looks like both teams know it's coming up soon. Blimpo's up there. He's the only one on blue team challenging it, though. Nanum comes out to neutralize it, but yeah, Blimpo was completely alone on that amp, and it looks like Nanum now is pushed all the way up to mid, so maybe blue team get a little antsy and thinking, hey, you know, we've got control of our flag, why don't we utilize that and push forward a little bit, have some more fragging ability in mid. Blimpo, meanwhile, is out in mid. There's the pickup that you need, and he's kind of stuck at his bio rifle, can't get across. So red team falling way back. It is overtime. It is going to be sudden death. And so both teams you can expect probably be falling back. Generally what you're going to do on November, since it's so easy to cut off flag carriers, you're typically going to only have one person dedicated to pulling the enemy flag off their stand as you're trying to chase a flag carrier back in their base. You most likely aren't going to have still 2 or 3 offense pushing ahead, because it doesn't gain you as much as it would on, say, a bigger or more complex map, you know, like, say, a Grendel Keep.
Yeah, you know, like I was alluding to earlier, I think what's going to make the difference in this game is going to be one of the teams attempt to make an aggressive switch up, you know, maybe send an extra person mid, send an extra person on D, and either they capitalize on it or the other team capitalizes.
We've seen Corky now grabbing this flag a lot, but he typically has fairly low health. Not to say he's not getting power, so maybe by the time he gets to it. Ooh, Danny able to get blue keg in his hands now, and he's actually hiding in their base.
Blue team is actually able to pick up the amp that time, too. Their first amp in probably the last 10 minutes.
Danny gets shot all up, but he's going to get out to mid, but he has enemy amp now. Blimpo finally getting back control of it. Not able to take him down yet. Danny now walking all the way across mid. He's going to go down in his front door. If anything hits him, there it goes. Will they get this pickup? They do. Now they're back in their base. Red team with the best opportunity they've had all game. You see a mega kill coming out by GS3K, and that's going to do it. And of all people, Zeos actually gets that cap. So a defender steps up and finishes that one all the way back to the stand.
So the crazy thing about that flag capture, that whole flag run, is the fact that Red had dominated that amp for probably the last 10, if not the last 11 minutes of that map. Blue finally breaks through, picks up an amp, and they're able to kill him on the run and still score.
Yeah, what happened there was, I mean, Danny was actually down. Yeah, their flag runner was down to, I want to say, 40 health crossing the midpoint of the map. And they couldn't do 40 damage between him crossing the middle of the sub and getting to his front door. I mean, they had link guns on him, they had everybody, taking shots at him, and they just couldn't get that damage output. And, once you get back to your front door, all of a sudden your team starts having the respawn advantage. You can't really go frag for frag in that particular doorway. You really have to push through one way or the other.